Do you actually enjoy the endgame repeating content in any gacha game? Very, very interesting. So endgame in gacha, I think it's like every 2 weeks, right? For example, like ZZ, HSR is every 2 weeks. Wuthering Wave Tower is every 2 weeks as well. So I do think that most game, now for Nikki it's quite unique. It's also every 2 weeks. It's like solo raids and union raids, I guess, is the end game. But what do you mean by repeating content in any gacha? Oh, I think I understand. So basically, so here's the thing about endgame, right? A lot of people like to go in over and over and over and over again. And I think most endgames are like that for every gacha game. You keep going in, play again until you can get 3 star or until you can get the best score, until you can get the best timer, time beaten or something, right? So it is somewhat like that for most gacha end games, unless it's a PvP gacha game, right? If it's a PvP based gacha game, then that's going to be a different story. Epic 7, maybe like Counter-Strike and Summoner's War, and those games are probably like in that particular style. But if you are a PvE focused gacha game, definitely this is something that you will see a lot, right? I've noticed in the gacha I play, there are basically two type of different types of endgame content, and they are both chores that I do not enjoy. Okay, let's see then. So number one is either rank against other players like Blue Archive or Honkai Impact. So ranking against other players in Blue Archive and in Honkai Impact. So Blue Archive one, it felt alright to me, or at least it's somewhat tame, right? Sure, you can try to go in over and over again to improve the score to get the best score possible, but I don't think it's that bad, right? So this one he don't like. This just take all the fun out of the game because you have to play optimally and sweat over milliseconds. Now I can definitely see that. Probably the same for PGR's endgame as well, and probably like, yeah, if there's like a leaderboard system, yeah, I can see that as a perspective, right? You either get the best score or you get the second best score or third best score, but sometimes it does depend on the game, right? If the rewards difference is not that high, for example in Blue Archive specifically, if you can beat and get in the top score, you get 1200 pyroxenes. If you are in the second place, you get 1000. So the difference is only like 1200 and 1000 is like 200 pyroxenes difference. That's about one pull, right? It's not that big of a deal. But yeah, some people like do just settle for gold. Yeah, some people don't want to settle for gold, right? So everyone is using the exact same team and rotation, but there aren't enough slots for everyone to get the best rewards. In Blue Archive, you can still modify a little bit of things, but I can see this perspective. Yeah, I can see the perspective, right? You could just settle for a lower tier and then it just devolves into the next type, with the added bonus of always being reminded that you are missing out on rewards. FOMO. The other type, like Genshin Impact or Honkai Star Rail, where you just have to clear the difficult content, isn't nearly as bad, but it just becomes boring. Boring, eh? You think the competitiveness in Blue Archive is alright because the difference in rewards for top ranks and bottom is very small? I guess it adds up, right? Once you have played for long enough, you will always be able to full gear, and it just becomes another unengaging things you check off every cycle. I see so many people talk about endgame as an important part of gacha, when to me, it just seems to take away from the parts of the game I actually enjoy. Which gacha games have an endgame that you genuinely enjoy? I do think that endgames are necessary to be able to reward you for like pulling for characters as well, right? Because like, if there's no endgame, then do you just pull for waifu or pull for whoever that you like? I guess that's like a different thing, but there's no incentive for you to build them then, right? I feel like that's the thing about gacha games. You ideally want to build a character to be able to use them to push endgame, and I do think that you get rewarded when you do that. It's the best feeling ever for me, right? I get it that different people might care about different stuff, but that's just how I feel. In my opinion, there is no such thing as a gacha game with a good endgame. Any repeatable content will eventually become stale. But it's never the same, right? For example, like bosses are never the same, they can rotate it around. Before I joined this sub, I didn't even know people cared about the endgame. I figured most people just logged off and went back to their real life activities. Wow, real life activities. Ah. What else? Basically this, I found that you really need to take this kind of content kind of casually or in moderation. When you're at that point, you are just grinding out the endgame waiting for new content, it's super easy to get burned out of it. Well, it depends, right? Unless you're struggling in the endgame. What is real life? Real life is when you go out and touch grass and meet friends and hang out with friends and Netflix and chill with them, I guess. You really have to relax. Really have to relax, eh? Burnout is why I appreciate games that have limited access to the end game once you're there. By that, I mean generally either a stamina system, where they don't throw you endless amounts of stamina top-ups via events or etc, and don't let you overcap stamina by a lot, or they just limit you to X times per week or per day for said activity. I get to log on, do my silly couriers for 10 minutes and log back out, knowing full well that I'm still progressing my account for when the new content does actually drop. Okay. I mostly agree with this. For me, it's level of endgame that I can tolerate. Vast majority of endgames are just DPS checks, and to me that's horrendously boring. Game has to have a great gameplay loop, aside from endgame, to keep me playing it. Yeah, some games have mini games for that, right? I'm guessing some people don't like endgame, they like mini games. That's why like Nikki like to do mini games and Blue Archive once in a while. So I can see that, right? That's going to be the perspective that they are looking at things at. But mini games, I don't know if I like it if it's too often. Old people still like to kill spare time and relax every now and then. Huh. You can't imagine playing again until you're old. I actually think that I only heard about gacha game endgame when Genshin became popular. Sure, it could just be normies, they are not familiar with gacha games. But I also do think that content creators also have a hand on that. With Genshin and subsequent games' popularity, couple that with the nature of being a content creator needing to pump out content day after day, there'd be a lot of complaints about the game not having enough content, when gacha normally doesn't have end game content, at least back then. But now Genshin has a card game, TCG. Pulling in gacha is the end game. That's true. That's true. Pulling in gacha is the end game, right? Let's see. Endgame has a talking point. Okay. I don't care for endgame so much. I keep seeing people screaming endgame, endgame, endgame. I kind of become conscious about it too. I somewhat disagree with the statement, at least with Arknight's integrated strategies. That's very much by design. If it's too fun, you'll play it without spending money. So they want you to spend money. People only enjoy shit when it gives gacha currency. I think that's true though. When you design an end game, I think it's easier for them to just design an end game that's harder. But if it doesn't give gacha currency, I think most players wouldn't do it. How many of you guys here would try to play like the highest difficulty content on any end game or whatever? If they don't give you any rewards, they give you 0 rewards, would you guys still do it, right? I think most people wouldn't. Most players wouldn't. Beating Chichi is the end game. Like if Nikkei solo raids gives 0 rewards, it's just for fun for you to rank, I wouldn't do it. I'll be like, okay, who cares, right? I think most players wouldn't do it. Which is why you gotta have some sort of currency there. You gotta give some sort of rewards. Which makes sense, right? You gotta reward players for trying. Why is it like, if you don't reward players for trying, that's like a bad game design, I feel like. Gamba is the real end game. What is the point if no rewards? The point is for you to enjoy for fun, right? Reward me for your time. I guess so, eh? I've seen some games that give out the end game they want, but still complain cause they don't have give enough decent rewards. Just go to show, those vocal minority are never content with anything. All gacha games need to have endgame. Why don't people just play other games while it's getting tiresome? Because most people can only play a few gacha games. You can only play so many gacha games. But yeah, there's those, right? Not the biggest fan of content creator CC Arc Knight, but I do enjoy roguelike mode. Endgame more like game mode that you can get gacha resource. Remove those rewards and no one will care about it in less than a week. That's true. That's probably true. People want to have the rewards. And you know what? Some games are, I feel like the end game is much more tolerable, like Blue Archive. Definitely. But some games like Honkai Star Rail has been getting like harder and harder. To where I feel like if you're a new player in Honkai Star Rail, yeah, it's rougher for you to get everything compared to certain other games. But yeah, there's those aspects, right? It depends on the game as well.